Are you the funny one, the entertainer, the one who just is the life of the party? Maybe the storyteller, the one who just captivates everybody's attention and just kind of takes us on a journey all night long. Maybe you're the person who's the advice giver, the guide, the one who knows all the right answers, who knows the right thing to do all the time. Or maybe you just know a lot about certain subjects and you just love sharing it all. Maybe you're the debater, the challenger, the one who just comes in and like knows what people are doing wrong or how we should be doing it differently or how we should be thinking about things in a different way. There's so many different expressions of how we show up with our energy in this world. And I want to talk to those of us whose energy is very verbal, whose energy takes up a lot of space in a room, from one talker to another. I don't know that we always see the damage that we can sometimes do if we're not aware of our own energy. We talk a lot. I get interviewed a lot by media, always wanting to know, like, do you have any tips for introverts when it comes to making friends? And that's like another subject. And there's certainly muscles that we would encourage maybe some introverts to build when it comes to relationship building. But if I were being really honest, in all my long years now of community building and facilitating groups and bonding people together, from travel circles to workshops to retreats to church congregations, like the whole gamut, I have been around facilitating community for a very long time. And I can say that unfortunately, the ones who do the most damage are often the ones who are loneliest, the ones that people are avoiding, are the people who talk too much. The people who are doing it without intention, without awareness. And we do it for all kinds of reasons. We do it sometimes because we're insecure, sometimes because we're just nervous, because we don't like quiet space. We're kind of uncomfortable with silence. We feel like we need to fill that. Sometimes it comes from just our own need to be loved. And so we want to be funny. We want to be impressive. We want you to like us. Sometimes it comes from loneliness. We don't have enough people to talk with. And so when we find somebody or find an audience, we're just like, ah! There's a lot of different reasons. And it comes out of sometimes really beautiful intentions and sometimes hurts and wounds. And at the end of the day, I want us to just look at ourselves a little bit more honestly and just kind of evaluate what effect we're having. And is it having the effect we want to have? Are we feeling closer to people? Are we building more meaningful relationships? But let me say first, this is not about not being a talker. This is not about changing who you are. This is not about being a quiet person. This is not because you're too much. It might just be too much for certain settings or for certain purposes, for certain outcomes. For example, I am a keynote speaker. I can get up and talk for 45 minutes or 3 hours, and it's appropriate. People pay me to do that. People sit there and listen and cheer afterward. But it wouldn't be appropriate if I were in a small group at a holiday party and I just started talking and standing up and talking for 45 minutes. Not okay. Not okay. Somebody might call me for coaching and advice, and they might want me to tell them where I think they should do something differently and what they need to try and what some of the steps are to do something or to have a hard conversation. And that's appropriate in that setting. Not appropriate if I'm standing in a group of people I don't know very well, or even a group of friends, and I hear them just talking about a hard situation and I just immediately start telling them what they should be doing. Not okay. And so this isn't about you not being you. I want you to be you. I actually believe that you have the exact amount of energy and talent and skill that you are meant to have to be the gift you're meant to be in this world. And I think if you are a big talker, that's because you are here to do some big talking and some big things in the world. So I'm all here for that. I just want to make sure that if what we're doing sometimes is hurting us from bonding, that we recognize the difference. And so if I'm here to bond or to build relationship or to be closer to somebody else, then I need to act differently than I would if I'm on stage in a context of teaching and inspiring people. And so we need to say, this isn't about not being me. I can be Shasta and quieter at the same time. My identity is not wrapped up in having to talk about and share everything that's going through my mind. And that's a hard habit to break. I remember 10, 12 years ago, consciously starting to have the awareness that in a group setting, I did not have to say everything that came to my mind. I did not have to respond to every single time somebody said something. I did not have to tell a similar story. And it took some training. It took some intentionality for me to ask myself, do I have to share this, or can I just let her keep talking? Or can I just ask a question about how it's feeling to her rather than tell her how it's felt to me before? Can I keep the attention on this person longer? And B, just does this need to be said? And if not, okay, I don't need to walk out of here having said every single thing I need to say. What I need to do, and this comes down to a really big point when it comes to building relationships. The definition of a friendship, remember, is when both people feel seen in a safe and supportive way. Both people is the key words here. And so if I'm a big talker, if I did most of the talking, I could walk out of a party or a room or get off the phone and just be like, oh, I feel so seen. I told her everything. I'm an open book. I told her the whole story. I feel so validated. And so we can walk away feeling so seen. But the important question is, if I were to ask her, does she feel so seen by you when she walks out of the same party or gets off that phone call? And so we have to change our metric system of how we're measuring what we're doing. It's not just about, do I feel seen? It's, did both of us feel seen? And so if building friendships and bonding and feeling close to people and feeling supported to people is important to us, and if that's our purpose, then we need to make sure that they feel as seen as we do. So therefore, a lot of people are going to be used to us talking. We're going to have to get comfortable being a little more silent. We're going to have to be comfortable not always being the ones who lead the conversation, letting there be a quiet gap and let them decide what the next conversation or topic or story is. And just sitting there and letting that silence happen, being comfortable with quietness is a beautiful skill to develop for those of us who are extrovert. It also means just kind of being aware of maybe asking more questions, asking a follow-up question and another follow-up question, asking them how they feel about that, keeping it on them. Because if there's two of us in a room, in theory, both of us should be talking 50% of the time. That's not a hard and fast rule. And of course, over the course of a relationship, there will be conversations that are more about one person than another. But as a general rule, especially when we're meeting new people or in a group setting, we want to be mindful that we are not taking up more space, because the more space we take up, that means we are taking from somebody else's space or time. So if we're in a 2-hour-long party and there's 5 of us, that means I should not be talking more than 20% of the time. So we have to measure ourselves. We have to catch ourselves and being like, okay, I'm having fun. I'm telling lots of stories, but it's time for me now to listen to other people's stories. And so we need to start being more mindful and evaluate ourselves when we're walking out of a party or halfway through a party, even better. How much am I talking? How much did I honestly talk? And did I talk after every time? Did I have to share something after every time they shared something? Or was I able just to let it be on them for a little while without needing to tell a story or give a fact or advise them or make a joke? And so we need to start being more evaluative. And conversations like this are important for us to have, because I think a lot of us aren't even aware. We know we're talkers, but we aren't aware of the damage that we're doing. And we're not aware that we're damaging ourselves, because if our goal is to feel close to people, if our goal is to have people feel loved by us, if our goal is that they walk away feeling seen, then we have to know that our actions are what's contributing to whether that outcome happens or not. So we need to start taking responsibility for how we're showing up with that energy, if we're taking up too much space or time. So we need to start doing more evaluation, and just naming it is so important, because it's easy to be defensive. It's easy to be offended. It's easy to just be like, no, I don't show up that way, or it's not that bad, or, but I'm funny. People like it. They respond well to it. It's easy to go there. I get it. But the more we start owning it, the more our brains can start helping us catch ourselves in the action. The more we can say, ooh, I think I might talk more than I need to. It's so fun, and it's just a habit, and I need to be paying more attention to that. It's so powerful. We just need to keep taking that in, so that our brain, the more things we think, the more we're likely to act in a different way. And then what are things you can do to change, to kind of create that changing the habit. Like, how can you remind yourself? Maybe it's before you get out of the car to go into a event or party or meet a friend. Maybe it's in that car where you just pause for 30 seconds. And maybe it's just a few deep breaths. Maybe it's a meditation. Maybe it's a prayer where you just say, help me be the person tonight that is a listener, that leaves other people feeling seen. Help me use my energy in such a way that leaves other people feeling loved and needed in this world. And so maybe it's just setting that intention beforehand. Maybe it's doing something that we can think about while we're there, where we say, every time I go to the food table, I'm going to create a thought in my head where I'm eating food and I'm thinking to myself, as I'm putting food in my mouth, I'm pausing for a second. How much am I talking? Maybe there's like something that we can kind of like use that we will check in with ourselves. I am a big fan of like jewelry being mindful. So I have rings mean things to me. And like, if I have a certain necklace on, it's like, so that every time I see that necklace in the video or when I touch it, I'm thinking of like what it is that I need to be remembering and thinking of. And so I have a ring that every time before I speak on stage, I just touch that ring and I know exactly, I infuse my body with who I am and what I'm here to do in this world. And so maybe it's putting a bracelet on that you play with, and every time you kind of notice it throughout the evening, you're like, I am here to love people well and to listen more. And so we need to start catching ourselves in the action and trying to change that habit. So super important. What energy, we have powerful energy, my friends. And it's not about being less than, but it's about being more purposeful, about being more intentional with it, about using our energy well, harnessing it. We don't just need to we're not ourselves only. I think we sometimes mess up thinking I'm only myself if I'm just full throttle on this, and if I'm just big and being the one and da 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 da. No, that's not who you are. I am Shasta. I am amazing. I'm magical. I've got great things to do in this world. And I am also Shasta if I'm quiet and connecting and being intimate and listening to stories and nodding my head. I am not just a talker. I am a person who's here to be in relationship and have an impact on the world. You are more than this. So we want to think through how can we use our energy in the most appropriate of settings, that when we're meant to be inspiring and when we're meant in places, how can we use our energy full throttle in certain places and use our energy thoughtfully and strategically when it comes to bonding and connecting and leaving other people feeling seen and heard. We can do this. You were given these gifts for a very special reason. And I want you to do more of that. And I want us to be more mindful that we don't have to do that all the time to be who we are. Our gifts are so needed in relationships. And I would invite you to keep initiating. I love that you can pull that off and keep reaching out to people. What is a beautiful gift. And maybe we are sometimes the people who help break the ice, who help shift the energy, who help be a little vulnerable at first to help invite other people to do that. There's so many ways we can use our energy and our lack of fear from talking, or our willingness to be the one to help create better connections. But let's just do it mindfully. I want this for your sake. I want it. I watch groups, and I want it for everyone else's sake too. I don't want people to be avoiding you or to be bonding outside of your presence or to finally exhale when you leave the room. But more importantly than that, I want you to feel loved. I want you to feel connected. I want you to walk away not just feeling seen, but feeling like you had the chance to hear somebody else's heart, and that you felt like you were the chosen one that got to hear that and witness that and validate that for somebody. And so I want you ultimately to feel loved and to know where you can put your energy for bonding and where you can put your energy for having big impact in the world. And there's a difference. And I think the more we keep talking about it, the more we'll each be able to experiment a little bit more. Big, big blessings on you, my dear fellow talker.